The rain in New Orleans doesn't fall. It drapes. It hangs in beads off porch rails and church spires, turns neon into watercolor, makes everything smell like rust and lemons and old wood. I was listening to the hum of the city under the Claiborne overpass when my phone rattled across the dashboard. Unknown number. Ms. Whitaker, you dig where the ground is soft. Drive to the London Avenue Canal, by the pump station. Look at the water. The line went dead. My heart didn't speed up. It shifted, like a boat that slipped its mooring. I swung the car around. The wipers beat time like a tired drummer. The rain wasn't a storm, not yet. Just a rehearsal. At the London Avenue Canal, the concrete walls rose pale and indifferent. Sodium lights smeared orange over slick surfaces. The pump station throbbed with a sound I felt in my ribs. Then I saw it. Something dark snagged near the trash rack, rising and settling with the pulse of the pumps. A jacket, boots, a hand. A cop's flashlight found it the same second mine did. The hook went in. The water gave up its claim with a sulky tug. They rolled him onto the slab under the eaves. I knew the stubble on that jaw. I knew the scar across the knuckle of his right index finger from when he'd cut wire fencing the summer he married my sister. Ben Carter, I heard myself say. My brother-in-law. The man who could fix anything with baling wire and patience. The one who taught my niece to throw a cast net. The one who installed backup generators for half the neighborhood after Ida. The officer looked at me. You know him? Family, I managed. The rain thickened. Somewhere a siren sang itself tired, and in the sour metal smell of the pump station, I felt the first tug of a story that was going to drag me under or pull something rotten to the surface. 1. The kitchen light. My name is Ann Whitaker, 45, investigative reporter who can't keep plants alive. People like to say I dig too deep. I prefer to think the truth is always buried in the exact place no one is willing to excavate. My sister Claire made coffee no one drank. Her shotgun house in mid-city felt too small for the kind of silence that moved in overnight. They said he slipped, she murmured, not looking at me. Her hands were wrapped around a mug like it could keep her from floating away. He was always near the water at night, checking pumps for folks, making sure the station alarms were acting right. But he always texted when he'd be late. He didn't text. Did he have work tonight? Off the books, she said, a little too quick. Ben said the new neighborhood drainage network was touchy. She tried for a laugh and failed. He kept a bag in the truck, flashlight, waders, a thermos. He said if the city wants to keep its feet dry, somebody's got to keep the machines honest. I noticed the little details reporters notice when they're afraid to be sisters. Mud on the doormat that wasn't from tonight, an envelope under a magnet on the fridge. Crescent Resilience Consortium. And a key fob dangling from it, a small blue plastic tag. I tapped it. What's this? Claire's gaze flicked away. Access key. Ben was consulting for them some nights. Consulting? He's an electrician, not a civil engineer. He said they paid in cash. Community liaison, he called it. She let out a sound that wasn't a laugh. Anne, if this wasn't an accident, if someone... She stopped. In the thin line between her mouth and the mug rim, I saw the shape of a secret. I'm going to look, I said. Don't write about Ben. I can't not. It will tear us up. We're already tearing, I said. 2. The tag, the blue fob, opened a steel door at the back of a squat concrete building off Florida Avenue 1 of the Crescent Resilience Consortium's neighborhood nodes, according to a brochure in a glass case by the door. The hallway hummed with the heat of racks and routers. A janitor mopped the same square, like it owed him money. Help you? He asked without looking up. Picking up for Ben Carter. My voice sounded like somebody had borrowed it. Yeah, he said. He kept things in locker 12. He nudged his chin. Folks keep odd hours in here. Inside locker 12, a gray binder smudged with fingerprints, a disposable phone, a flash drive in a plastic coin envelope, a stack of printed emails, and a Polaroid of Ben smiling with a fish the size of his grin. On the back of the photo in his blocky hand, "If I go under, look up." I looked up. The ceiling tiles were water-stained in rings like tree years. In the hum of the servers, I heard my own blood. The binder was a map of money, subcontractor layers, shell LLCs, retainer invoices stamped "Urgent Flood Prevention," in a font that did a lot of heavy lifting, and a name that kept circling back like a gull. Gulf Guard. The consortium's crown jewel data plus pumps plus predictive models, all piped through private hands, the kind of public-private marriage that made politicians speechify and auditors drink. Another name pinpricked the page. Whitaker, Marine Logistics. My father's old company. The company my cousin Jack ran after Dad died. What in God's green river was Jack doing in the plumbing of a resilience project? My phone buzzed. Unknown number. "You're early, Miss Whitaker," the voice said. "Male, warm as a closed office. Or late. Depends which tide you think you're on. Leave the building now and wash your hands." Click. I sniffed my palms before I could stop myself. Detergent. Mop water. The janitor's eyes were on his square of floor like it was the only honest thing left in the world. 3 Jack's Warehouse. Jack's warehouse sat near the industrial canal, where the smell of diesel and pralines from a nearby factory do an uneasy dance. Forklifts, weaved between pallets of culverts and pipe. Logistics, the sign said in bland letters, like it was ashamed of itself. Jack came down from the mezzanine in a jacket too expensive for a place that sweated this much. He hugged me with a rib-cracking sincerity I didn't buy. "You're here for me or for a story?" He grinned. "Ben's dead." I didn't have time for his charm. "I found your name in his papers." "Crescent Resilience Contracts." He spread his hands. "We move parts, pumps, sensors, fuel, whatever keeps the city from becoming a bay. We got selected because we're fast. And because you know the back streets better than the bid sheets," I said. His smile thinned. "Careful, Annie. Did you pay Ben off the books?" He was a fixer, knew the old stations better than most engineers. We tossed him some work. Cash is king when the water's rising. He looked past me, out toward the canal. "Look, you know I loved Ben. But if you're thinking somebody tossed him a no, nobody around here is that stupid." "I've met a lot of clever idiots," I said. "What's Gulf Guard?" "Software with a suit," he said. "They sell confidence with a dashboard. City buys it because it's shinier than maintenance." He shrugged. "And because shiny things have friends." "Who's friends?" He didn't answer. He looked tired in a way that didn't come from work. "Talk to Aunt May," he said finally. "She knows where the bones are and who buries them." Aunt May had been my father's accountant, conscience, an occasional storm. If there was a ledger line out of place, she felt it like weather in her knees. 4. Aunt May. May lived in Gentilly in a house that smelled like file powder and old paper. She wore a floral housecoat like armor and poured coffee like penance. "You come when the ghosts get noisy," she said. "Sit." I spread the binder on her dining table. She pushed her glasses up her nose and made a small, unhappy sound in her throat that I remembered from being 12 and lying about where I'd been. "Your daddy did business with men who said the right things on Sunday." She tapped a page. "Gulf Guard's not new. Different haircut on the same head, we've seen it before. urgency to skip the boring parts where oversight happens. Is Jack in bed with them? She looked at me over the glasses. Jack sleeps with profit. That boy would sell a boat with a hole if the buyer needed a bath. Then softer, but he's not cruel. Someone is, I said. Her finger paused on a notation. Parishioner coordination. What's that? I asked. Pet name for a fixer, she said. Shows up at meetings like a deacon. Handshake, blessing, a suggestion you don't want to disappoint God or the Federal Grants Committee. You know his name? You know how ghosts get, she said. They talk and leave the important part out. She slid a shoebox across the table. Inside, receipts so old they were crispy, a micro-cassette recorder, and a church bulletin with a phone number scrawled in pencil. I kept this because your daddy told me not to, she said. Men only say don't when the truth starts costing them. My phone buzzed. Unknown. I let it buzz until it stopped. The silence afterward felt like a held breath. 5 and on the tape. I dug my old micro-cassette player out of a drawer I hadn't opened in 3 apartments. The tape inside crackled awake. A man's voice, southern and patient. You do this, and the money comes like tide. You don't, and all you've got is mud. My father's voice, younger than I remembered. My daughter's a reporter. A soft chuckle. Daughters grow up. Water keeps coming. A click. A door somewhere far in the past closing. I rewound it twice. The hairs on my arms had opinions. 6. The parishioner I called the number on the bulletin. A man answered on the second ring with a smile already in his voice. Miss Whitaker, I was wondering when you'd drop by. You know who I am. I know you're a tide. I respect tides. They roll in, they roll out, and even the Corps tips its hat. He paused. We should meet. Where? St. Roch Cemetery tomorrow. Walk with me, wear boots. He hung up. I looked at the ceiling like it might have advice. It didn't. 7. The Walk Among Names. Cemeteries in New Orleans are cities facing the sky. The tombs stack and shimmer and beg you to remember that the ground won't keep anything you bury. The man leaning on a mausoleum near the St. Roch Chapel wore a light gray suit and the kind of smile people mistake for kindness. You can call me the parishioner, he said, before I could ask. Everyone does. Everyone with a contract, I said. Or a conscience, he countered. We help the city not drown. We move faster than bureaucracy and slower than greed. That middle speed, that's where survival lives. Ben Carter drowned, I said. His smile held. An accident is a tragedy. A suspicion is a hobby. You've been calling me. I've been giving you weather reports. You like rain. He glanced at a name carved in marble. You look like your father around the eyes. Do I look like him when he's lying? I asked. Your father told the truth he could afford, he said gently. So will you. He started walking. I had to choose between following and shouting at stone. I followed. Gulf Guard sells certainty, he said. You can't sell maintenance on a ribbon cutting, but you can sell an app that says the pumps are happy. People clap. Money moves. Meanwhile, old concrete leaks in the places cameras don't visit. And you? I make meetings feel like church, he said. People sign faster when they feel saved. Did you kill Ben? I don't kill people, he said. I host conversations where outcomes get decided. He stopped at a tomb whose mortar was crumbling like cake. You, Ms. Whitaker, make outcomes messy. You write. People panic. The market hates panic. What do you want? For you to write something else, he said. There's a nursing home scandal north of the lake. There's a contractor skimming from school roofs. Your ink is a floodgate. Open it somewhere harmless. And if I don't, Then the water you love so much learns your address. He put a card in my hand. It felt blank, but had a raised pattern like ripples. Call when you're tired of swimming. He left me with the names. 8. Claire's porch was a wet postcard. She'd moved Ben's boots by the door like a superstition. My niece, June, sat on the steps, knees tucked, earphones in without music. Was Uncle Ben a bad man? June asked quietly when Claire went inside to answer the kettle. No, I said, and meant it all the way down. He was a good man who thought he could keep a city honest with a wrench. Mom cried in the pantry, she said. She thinks I can't hear in there. Claire came back with tea she didn't want. Anne, I found this in Ben's truck. She handed me a small plastic cylinder with a micro SD card inside, wrapped in electrical tape. On it, in Ben's block letters, P.S. Pump station, I guessed. Postscript, she said, almost smiling. 9. What the cameras saw. On my laptop, the footage was raw and shaky, the way guilty truth usually is. Ben's flashlight jittered across a pump station interior, stopping on a new junction box with a sticker. Gulf Guard Smart Node. He opened it. Inside, a tangle of wires spliced into the alarm system and a small device with a SIM card. Ben whispered to himself, "This ain't right. This ain't an upgrade. It's a silencer." He pointed his light at the station's control panel, alarms masked, warnings rerouted. The SIM was pinging somewhere out of state. The video cut with a breath and a curse. I sat back. The room was suddenly too small for air. If the city's flood alarms could be muted remotely, plausibly, then the pumps could fail without anyone hearing the scream in time. A city can't drown at once. It drowns in permissions. My phone lit the room. Unknown number. "You're getting brave," the parishioner said. "Or reckless. Hard to tell them apart in this town. You silenced the pumps." "I don't touch machines," he said. "I shepherd budgets." A pause, then softer. "Walk away, Miss Whitaker. For your sister. For June." "You leave them out of your mouth," I said. "Everything is already in my mouth," he said, and hung up. 10. The night of questions. I wrote until the power blinked. My sentences came out like knives, and I sharpened them again. Gulf Guard. Crescent resilience. Alarm masking. Private profit over public safety. I typed until the rain on the window sounded like applause. At 2:13 a.m., the street went black. Not storm, a decision. My laptop tried to hold on, then sighed into battery mode. In the dark, the city felt like a cat in the next room, there but invisible. A tap on my window, then an envelope slid under the door. Inside, an old photo of my father shaking hands with a man whose face didn't quite decide what it was. On the back, "We clean what needs to shine." I thought about the janitor's square of floor, clean enough to eat off. I thought about Ben's hands, always nicked, always steady. I thought about water, how it tells the truth if you give it time. 11. The Levee Road. Climax of Part 1. I drove to the lake. The causeway lights stretched like a rosary into the dark. I pulled onto the Levee Road and killed the engine. The rain had thinned to a mist that made the world feel uncommitted. Headlights approached, low and deliberate. A truck door opened. Jack slid out, his face pulled tight. Another door opened. The parishioner, in that gray suit, impossible not to notice even when you wanted to. Jack didn't look at me. "You shouldn't have called him," he said. "I didn't," I said. "He called me," the parishioner said pleasantly. "Family meetings are holier when the lake is listening." "You're in this," I told Jack. "The alarm masking the money." Jack's jaw worked. "We move boxes. That's it." "Some of those boxes carried the city's ability to scream," I said. The parishioner clasped his hands. Anne, you're talented. Use it elsewhere. He nodded at the water. It's patient. I'm not. Did you kill Ben? I asked again, because some questions don't stop being questions just because you hate the answers. Ben drowned, he said. He was a brave man who mistook his lungs for a cause. He looked at Jack. You brought her here. You clean it up. Jack flinched like he'd been told to drown a dog. No. The parishioner sighed. Then watch. He stepped closer to me and spoke softly so Jack had to lean in to hear. Write about a nursing home. Write about a school roof. Write about anything but the pumps. Or we will open the floodgate in the one place you can't sandbag. What place is that? My voice was steady. My knees weren't. He smiled. Home. He tipped 2 fingers at Jack. Get her to stop. They left me on the levee with the lake black and vast and patient, like a truth I hadn't yet earned. 12. Resolution, for now. I drove home slowly because the words in my head were heavy, and because sometimes going fast feels like a lie. Claire called twice. I let it ring once, then twice. Then I answered. June's not in her bed, she said, breathless. She left a note. It says, I'm not afraid of water. That's what Ben used to say when we took the boat out. Annan. My phone buzzed with another call cutting in. Unknown number. I didn't switch over. I didn't have to. I could hear the lake in the silence between Claire's breaths. Somewhere in the rain-washed dark of this city, the parishioner was folding my family into his ledger. I looked at my hands on the wheel. They were steady. Then I turned the car toward the pump stations, because if a city is going to drown, I want to be the one who chooses which sentence holds it up as long as it can. End of Part 1. The Water Rises. BAYOU Line, Part 2. 13. The Search by Dawn. The rain had rinsed the streets into mirrors. The air carried that metallic taste that comes before something worse. Police scanners were quiet. Too quiet. I drove toward the pump stations with my headlights dimmed, as though I could sneak up on truth. Claire's call replayed in my head. She left a note. I'm not afraid of water. June was 14, brave, too much like her uncle. The gate to the London Avenue pump station was unlocked. Mud tracks led from the gravel to the service dock. A child's shoe print in the muck, smaller than my hand. I shouted her name, but the city swallowed it whole. Inside, the control panels blinked obediently, green and calm, liars in plastic skins. A screen showed live data. Pump, 3 maintenance mode. Someone had logged in less than an hour ago. I checked the log. User, Parishioner admin. A noise behind me. A boot sliding on wet concrete. June? But it was the janitor from the Crescent Resilience building, mop handle in hand like a staff. His eyes looked hollowed out by guilt. She's fine, he said, voice trembling. He said she needed to see where it began. Where what began? The leak, he whispered. Not water. People. He pointed toward the service tunnels that ran under the levee. He took her down there, said she'd understand. I grabbed the flashlight from Ben's old kit and went down the ladder. 14. The tunnel. The tunnel smelled like oil and secrets. Water dripped in lazy syncopation. My light cut through mist that shouldn't have been there. I followed the echoes' voices, 2 of them. The city breathes through these walls, the parishioner was saying. If you listen, you can hear it dream. I can hear water, June said. Her voice was brave and thin. It sounds angry. Water's never angry, he replied softly. Only patient. You should learn patience. I stepped into the pool of their lantern light. Let her go. He turned, unhurried, as if we were in a church and I'd interrupted a prayer. Miss Whitaker, Your niece has her uncle's curiosity. June's eyes met mine, wide but steady. Aunt Ann, he says the pumps can talk to each other. They can't, sweetheart. They can, the parishioner corrected, through the mesh network. One fails, they all follow. Symphony of silence, unless someone intervenes. He looked at me. Unless someone writes the wrong story. June, come here. She wants to know, he said. And you do too. Your father helped build this logic, the protocol that decides when to scream and when to whisper. Gulf Guard just refined it. You're lying. Lying is just a different rhythm of truth, he said. You write. You know that. He gestured to the wall-fresh concrete patches, too smooth. Behind this, there's a relay. Pull it out, and the alarms come back. Pull it, and the consortium burns. Pull it, and the water wins. June looked at me. What do we do? My father's voice from that old tape echoed. Daughters grow up. Water keeps coming. I grabbed the handle of the relay embedded in the wall. The parishioner didn't move. He just smiled, calm as the tide. Choose, Ms. Whitaker. Save the city, or save the ones who still love you. I yanked. 15. The surge sirens wailed, sudden and hungry. The floor shuddered. Lights blinked from green to red. The parishioner laughed once short, almost admiring. You really are your father's storm, he said, and turned to run. The tunnel lights flickered out. Water gushed from vents, thin at first, then furious. June screamed. I grabbed her arm, dragging her toward the ladder. The janitor was gone. Only the sound of the pump switching back to life filled the dark machines, roaring like beasts awakened. We reached the ladder, half submerged now. June climbed first, boots slipping. I pushed from below until she cleared the rim. Then a hand caught my wrist. Jack, come on, he yelled. He'd come back. The guilt in his eyes looked like salvation. We stumbled out as the hatch slammed behind us, water erupting through cracks like applause. 16. The aftermath. By morning, half the city had lost power, but the floodgates held. News drones hovered like dragonflies over the canals. Officials called it a system glitch, corrected by automatic redundancy. I called it a lie that saved lives. June was asleep on Claire's couch, clutching Ben's cap. Claire sat beside her, eyes hollow, voice small. Was it you? The sirens? It was Ben, I said. He built the fail-safes. I just pulled the string. Jack showed up at noon, soaked and shaking. He handed me a folder, contracts, bank records, signatures. Everything the parishioner touched, he said. It's yours. He'll come after you. I'm done hiding underwater, he said. Then he added almost to himself, Dad would have wanted it clean. 17. The article. The piece ran 2 days later. Silence in the pumps. How profit nearly drowned a city. It didn't name the parishioner, but it didn't have to. People in the right offices read between lines. The mayor called it a necessary reckoning. Gulf Guard stocks cratered. The consortium announced an internal ethics audit. The parishioner vanished. His phone line became an echo. That night, someone left a small white envelope on my porch. Inside, a photo of June at the pump station taken from the shadows. On the back, Water remembers. 18. The return weeks later, I drove to the lake again. The sky was clean for once, the air too light. I parked near the levee where it had all broken open. A man in a gray suit stood by the water, hands in his pockets. The parishioner looked exactly the same, like he'd stepped out of memory. You wrote it, he said. You're supposed to be gone. Gone is just another district, he smiled. The city needs villains to make heroes believable. You lost. I adjusted. He looked at the horizon. They built new contracts already, new names, Gulf Guard's just a ripple now. He turned to me. You can write forever, Anne, but water never stops editing. Stay away from my family. I never touch family, he said softly. Family touches itself. He tipped his head, like a preacher giving benediction, then walked into the fog until the gray took him whole. 19. Resolution. I stayed until the fog thinned to sunlight. The pumps thudded steady in the distance, honest, loud, alive. I thought of Ben, of my father, of all the hands that had turned bolts to keep this fragile basin breathing. Back home, June had drawn something, the city as an island, ringed with words. In the center, 3 lines in her handwriting. Truth floats, lies sink, water tells. I pinned it above my desk, and when I started typing again, the first sentence I wrote wasn't about corruption or machinery. It was this: every city has a water line. Above it, what we build. Below it, what we hide. End of Part 2. The Water Speaks. BAYOU Line, Part 3, 20. The Ghost File. 3 months after the article, my desk looked like a crime scene built from printouts. I had a new routine: coffee, calls, caution. But quiet never lasts in New Orleans. It just holds its breath. An unmarked envelope came through the newsroom mail chute. Inside, a USB drive and a note typed in courier font. You only found half the map. The rest was buried before the flood. No signature, no sender. The drive contained encrypted files and one folder named Whitaker, 1979. My father's name on every metadata line. I called Aunt May. You're not done, she said. He left breadcrumbs. He always thought you'd need to follow them one day. Why 1979? That's when the city nearly drowned before anyone admitted the pumps failed. They said it was God's will. Your father said it was math. I stared at the flickering cursor on my laptop screen and clicked Open 21. The tape room. The files were audio logs, dozens of hours. My father's voice, younger, faster, full of hope before it curdled. If you control the water, you control everything that depends on breath, he said in one recording. We built resilience to buy time, but they want to sell it. Tucker. Another file carried a name I hadn't heard in years. Brother Hayden. A local preacher turned community leader who vanished after a corruption inquiry. The last log ended with, Parishioner project under church cover. Test group at pump node C. My stomach turned. The parishioner wasn't just a man. It was a role, a title. Passed down. 22. The church. The old church on Desire Street stood half swallowed by vines. The door creaked like it remembered hymns. Inside, water stains traced the walls like veins. In the basement, under peeling frescoes, rows of servers hummed beside a rusting baptismal font. A voice behind me. You followed the sermon. The parishioner stepped out of the shadow, not the same man. Younger, maybe 30, same gray suit, same calm. The city needed a new shepherd, he said. The old one drowned himself in legacy. So it's a franchise now, I said. A covenant, he corrected. Your father helped write the first verse. He motioned to a terminal. Want to hear him preach? The screen played a grainy video. My father, mid-40s, standing by the levee. If corruption becomes maintenance, the city will never drown. It will just sink slower. The young parishioner smiled. He saw the truth. We just improved distribution. You kill people to keep contracts. We preserve order. Ben Carter was chaos. You were noise. We clean what needs to shine. He took a step closer. You could help. Write the story the city needs, not the one it wants. Every flood needs a narrator. I looked at the servers, blinking like confession lights. And if I say no, he shrugged. Then the next rain will write it for you. 23, the choice. I recorded everything: the servers, the dialogue, the digital fingerprints that tied the new parishioner to the consortium's ongoing funding. Then I did what my father never could. I sent it to everyone: media, oversight committees, federal storm authorities. And I attached one line: the city can survive corruption or silence, not both. By nightfall, the network crashed. The story exploded. The parishioner's new face plastered every feed. He'd disappeared before they arrived, leaving only the humming servers and the smell of ozone. 24. The flood that didn't come. 2 weeks later, the hurricane came up the Gulf. A real one this time, not a metaphor. Forecasts screamed catastrophe. But the pumps held. Every alarm sounded exactly when it should. For the first time in years, the water stopped at the edge of the levee and sighed. Claire called, crying. "He'd be proud," she said. "Ben, Dad, all of them." "I'm not sure pride's the word," I said. "Maybe tired." June took the phone. "Aunt Ann, we watched the water rise and it stopped, like it listened. Maybe it did." 25. The monument months later, they built a memorial near the pump station. A sculpture of steel waves and engraved names: engineers, workers, victims. Ben's name was there. My father's wasn't. The mayor shook my hand for the cameras. "Transparency saves lives," he said. I smiled like a person who believes in statements. After the crowd left, I stayed. The pumps beat steady under my feet. I dropped a single cassette tape, the first one, from the levee into the canal. "Here," I whispered. "You tell it now." The water took it gently. 26. Epilogue. The BAYOU Line. Some nights I still get the calls. Unknown number. Silence on the other end. Then a faint sound machinery, or waves, or maybe breathing. I keep the phone on speaker and let it play while I write, because maybe stories are just levees we build against forgetting. The city hums, the rain drapes, the water waits, and somewhere beneath it all, the parishioner, whatever face he wears, now listens for the next reporter who mistakes conscience for safety.